I'm a very practical person. With everything I buy, the first thing I think about is how much would I use it? For me, this is a very realistic way to look at every potential purchase. And when I'm honest with myself, I'm also not as easily tempted or influenced. When it comes to luxury handbags, I used to focus on things like resale value and what's trending. But soon I realized I wasn't really buying those bags for myself, seeing I didn't even feel like reaching for them. And after going through a lot of buying and selling handbags, I now know that if I want to make use of a bag, it first of all has to be practical for my lifestyle. Now, some people might say luxury handbags are never meant to be practical, and that's why they are called luxury in the first place. I personally don't see it that way. I think if we choose wisely and intentionally, it's very much possible to find a practical luxury handbag that will serve us well day to day. And here are some of the things you might want to consider if practicality is an important element for you when buying luxury handbags. The first one is material. I know some people really enjoy smooth leather because the wear and tear can give the bag some character. To them, scratches are really not flaws. If anything, they tell a story about the handbag. And if you're that person, then something like the box leather will be the perfect choice for you. But as beautiful as box leather is, it doesn't do well with water. In fact, box leather is known to blister after coming into contact with water, unless if you dry it immediately. For that reason, I personally would not recommend buying a box leather handbag as your first luxury bag, especially if you plan to have a very curated collection. Fortunately, many luxury brands offer textured leathers. For example, the Clermonts and Togo leathers from Hermes, the caviar leather from Chanel, and the Empreinte leather from Louis Vuitton. All these leathers have their own pros and cons, so you definitely want to do your due diligence before making your decision. For example, the Hermes Clermont leather is thicker and therefore more durable compared to the Togo leather, but it's also a heavier material. Meanwhile, the Hermes Epsom leather is very light and scratch resistant, but because the grain is stamped, it can wear away with high impact contacts and you will not be able to refurbish those wear areas. When I first started, I used to really fantasize about Chanel handbags, but after a lot of trials and errors, I just don't find them to be very practical for my lifestyle. Over the years, I've always gravitated more towards my Hermes and Louis Vuitton pieces. The Louis Vuitton canvas is especially durable and worry-free, which is why I tend to grab my Louis Vuitton pieces if there's a chance of rain. I know some people are a bit put off by the popularity of Louis Vuitton canvas. For me, it can feel a bit loud at times, but I also think they are popular for good reasons. I personally have 3 Louis Vuitton canvas bags, and I have made very good use of all of them. Interestingly though, I never aspired to having a huge collection of Louis Vuitton canvas pieces. I feel like what I have are already serving my needs very well, and so I feel no urgency to acquire different designs just for the feeling of completion. If you're looking for a practical luxury handbag, the sizing is so important. Quite simply, if the size doesn't work for you, you will not want to use it. I think we all know how frustrating it is to have a bag that doesn't fit everything we want to carry, or a bag so big that we feel like we're dragging a luggage around. Personally, I tend to have an inkling about the best handbag size for me, and from experience, when I listen to myself, things tend to work out. For example, when I bought my Louis Vuitton Speedy Bandolier 25, the mini bags were not trending yet, and so the size 30 and 35 were really popular. But for some reason, I was really sure that the size 25 was the perfect size for me, and I'm glad to say it still is. Same goes with my Hermes Birkin 25. According to my Hermes sales associate, the size 30 had always been the most popular size, and so she was a bit surprised that I asked for the 25. I remember trying to find out more about this size, but there wasn't a lot of information online back then. Unfortunately, however, I did not always listen to myself. When I bought my Chanel wallet on chain, I had a feeling that it wasn't going to work because it couldn't fit all my essentials. But I bought it anyway because it was the it item back in the days. I also bought a Chanel boy bag in a size that did not make any sense on my body frame. Honestly, as soon as I took it home, I knew it was one expensive mistake. So my point is, as far as sizing goes, the only opinion that matters is yours because only you know how much you want to carry with you. The next thing to consider is the aspect of shoulder strap. I personally don't always look for a shoulder strap for my bags. I actually really like carrying my bags using the top handles, even when they do come with a shoulder strap. But I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I generally like smaller bags, and of course it's easier to go without a shoulder strap when your bag is not too heavy. For example, my Hermes Birkin 25 and my Louis Vuitton mini backpack are both quite small and very pleasant to carry. In contrast, for bags that are meant to do a lot of heavy loading, shoulder straps are a must-have. I now use my Louis Vuitton Totally MM as my weekend bag, and I cannot imagine not having the shoulder straps. On that note, I'm not sure if you've come across the Longchamp Le Plage travel bag. Now, I love Longchamp as a brand, but the top handle travel bag just does not make any sense. I mean, for such a big bag, you'll be packing a lot in it, and so a shoulder strap is not only handy, it's pretty much necessary. All that being said, not all shoulder straps are created equal. When I buy a bag, I pay quite a lot of attention to the length of the shoulder strap. I personally like my shoulder bag to drop around my hip area because it's easy for me to get my things in and out the bag. For example, my Hermes Kelly bags and my Lady Dior bag. For some reasons, certain luxury brands make really long shoulder straps. Not only that, they are also non-adjustable. For instance, the shoulder strap for my Sellier Nano luggage tote was way too long for me. I did some research online, and apparently a lot of people feel the same way. Some people suggested to shorten the strap by making a knot, which I was not comfortable doing, seeing it might damage the leather. Same goes with the Chanel wallet on chain. I actually had to use a hair tie to shorten the strap. I don't know about you, but I don't like the idea of having to do DIY when I already spent so much on the bag. So if you're looking for a practical designer bag, I highly recommend you to take some time to see if you need a shoulder strap, and if so, what makes the perfect shoulder strap for you. The price point of luxury handbags is a really important aspect to take into consideration if you want to buy a bag that you actually feel comfortable using. Like it or not, we humans have the tendency to be protective when something is expensive. But I feel like this is not talked about much in the fashion community. In fact, we always talk about bags in terms of the leather quality, the design, the heritage, and the resale values. And then we use those things to judge if a bag is worth buying. But in reality, a luxury handbag can have all those amazing qualities. But if the price point is beyond our comfort zone, we simply won't use it. This is when something feels too precious to use, and even when we do use it on a rare special occasion, we find ourselves doing everything in our power to keep it in a pristine condition. At least for me, that doesn't sound like the most practical luxury item. Now, when it comes to luxury pieces, of course, we are all looking for fine materials and craftsmanship, but we should also be realistic because at a certain price point, all those amazing things can start to become a burden rather than pleasure. And needless to say, that price point will be a different figure for all of us. Another really important thing to consider is lifestyle. Now, it goes without saying, how we define practicality really depends on where we live, our jobs, our budgets, hobbies, and so many other variables. So what's really practical for one person can be a totally meaningless object for another person. For example, if you are a fashion blogger with a massive following, having a huge collection of designer handbags makes sense because they are almost like your business assets. So what I mean is, you need those bags to experiment with different outfits to share with your community. It's quite similar to how artists will need their paints and brushes to do their jobs. But for many of us, having so many luxury handbags just isn't practical. For years, I really struggled to buy things for myself and my real life because what I saw on social media was so much more exciting. But eventually I realized when I stopped trying to live somebody else's life, that's when I have the mental space and the time to figure out what I need in my life. While we are on the topic of lifestyle, let's not forget that life changes. In the last 10 years, my life has gone through so many transitions, so what's practical can look so different depending on the timeline. For example, when I was a young mother, a big tote bag was so handy, which is why I used to use my Louis Vuitton Totally a lot. However, as my little boy grew older, I didn't have to carry as much anymore, and so it didn't make sense to carry such a big tote bag. So for a while, I was really attracted to smaller bags like my Kelly 25 and my Birkin 25. In fact, my Louis Vuitton Totally hibernated in my closet for years. It's only this year that I started using it again as my weekend bag because I've been traveling within the country a lot. So my point is, you should never forget to honor your season, especially if practicality is really important for you when buying luxury handbags. And those are my thoughts for buying the most practical designer handbags. Regardless of how Chanel increased their prices or how hard it is to get the Hermes, Birkin or Kelly bags, I think the best value luxury handbag is the one we use the most. Please let me know if you agree with that or if you have anything to add. And that's it from me today. Thank you so much for being here. Take care and I'll see you soon.